been trying to say. Words don't come straight from my head to my mouth. It's such a shame that it fell out of place. Was never me that was bringing you down. Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for more? Always looking for more. Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you Why we always looking for more? Why we
We don't care if you call our names. We don't care, we're just the same. We ignore the ways and we ignore the fight. We need a miracle. We need a miracle. We need a miracle. We don't care when you call our names. We don't care, we are just the same. We ignore the ways and we ignore the fight. We need a miracle. We need a miracle. We need a miracle.
Good afternoon, race fans. Welcome here to the 20th venue of the 5th season of the SRA Duracell Cup Series. As here today, a new track makes its debut on the Duracell Cup Series schedule. This is Nashville Super Speedway. The concrete surfaced mile and a third racetrack is getting ready to play its part down the home stretch of this, the regular season. The time of the season now where we are starting to formulate up who is going to be in the playoffs, who is going to be the hunt for that championship. But including today, we've still got 7 more races to go. Well, actually, correction, we've got 6 more races left to go to determine who those 10 teams will be. Now, we've got a pretty good idea of maybe about 3, 4, 5, maybe a half dozen teams that we know will be in the playoffs, but a lot can still happen between now and when we get to the regular season finale. So we're just going to keep you guys abreast of everything that takes place from now till that final checkered flag. It'll be 75 laps of racing here today. Nathan Ormond will be lining up on the pole position for this one. That 17 team really continues to struggle this year, coming off a dead last finish last week when James Qualls ended up getting involved in an early incident. We've got Nathan Ormond with good starting track position here today. Maybe the luck can turn around for this team out of Joanne Atwood Motorsports. They're 26th in the points coming into this one. On the flip side, you've got on the outside of the front row, Charles Belding in the championship winning number 19 car. Now, while they are running well in the point standings, and that team obviously has 2 wins to its credit, they are also riding a little bit of a downward spiral streak based on the fact that they didn't finish all the best last week, and as a result, the winning team, the 78 car from last week, they are now the new points leaders coming into this race. So the 19 car has spent a good portion of this regular season up atop the point stands. It looked like they were going to have a stranglehold on the 15 bonus points once the playoff points are recalculated, but now they got a bit of a dogfight on their hand. Some other teams have popped up into the vicinity as well. The 8, the 93, 01, 03, all those teams within striking distance of the points lead even here today, depending on what happens in Nashville. So it's going to be interesting to follow during the course of this race. But it's going to now be time to look at said point standings coming into this one. And as we take a look at the first page with the 78 team, who came into last week's race second in the point standings, now jumping up 1 spot to the points lead, not a lot changes in terms of where the playoff cut line was as opposed to last week. What is the difference is we know for absolute certain now that Ryan Butcher, Alexander Rowe, and Diego Yepes, members out of that 78 car out of Auto Junction Racing, they will be in the playoffs. That second win locks them in. We now know that they're locked in. We know the 19 car is locked in, second currently in the point stands, and we also know the 95 and 77, all the multi-win teams so far, they're locked into the playoffs. But, I mean, take a look at some of these other teams up here. The 8 team, Daytona 500 winning team, the 93 team, the 01 team. Yeah, they've got a win in the column right now. They're up there in the point stands, so they're sitting in pretty good shape of, if it comes down to it, getting the last 3 spots in the playoff grid. Right now, they're sitting pretty, but they certainly want to get more bonus points. They want to get more victories. The teams that you got to keep an eye on during this one now, I think, especially down this home stretch, the guys that you see here in the second half of the top 10, the 03, the 1, the 47, the 65. The consistency is there. That's why they're up in the top 10 in the point standings, but the victories are just not happening. They need a checkered flag to solidify that playoff position. Points aren't going to do it at this point in time. We have had more than 10 different teams go to victory lane. So there is no opportunity for anybody to be able to point their way into the playoffs. A victory, a checkered flag is the key for those drivers right there that I just mentioned, those teams that I just mentioned, to make it into the playoffs. You've got the 6 team there as well. They've kind of just been hovering around the top 10 in the point standings. I'm not saying that they have to go out and win, but that might be one team that really does have to rely on points here. They want to get themselves as high up in the point standings as possible, get themselves in a comfortable situation like those guys up there inside of the top 5 that have 1 win. Where's that playoff cut line, you ask? Well, we take ourselves to the second page here, and it's starting to get a little congested. The 48 team ran really well last week. They've now jumped up above the cut line. The 11 team struggled last week. They fall down below the cut line. Right now, the final playoff spots, if the season were to end now, would go to the 31 and the 48. The 32 and the 11 would be the first 2 teams on the outside looking in. And look at the points gap between those 4 respective teams. 543 for the 31 car, 536 for the 11 team. That is 9 points separation right there. No, actually, correction. Let me correct that again. 7 points. 7 points separation between those 4 teams. That measuring stick, that whoever gets up above and goes down below seems to fluctuate week after week, and I think this week's going to be no exception. That 27 team, though, they've been on a bit of a cold streak as of late. They need a good run today to get themselves away from that cut line, and look at these teams down here, the 38, the 55, the 99, the 2. These guys are within striking distance with a win where they could end up putting themselves above that cut line and into a playoff position. How about that 21 team there for No Limits Racing as well? A great run last week for Pedro Lucas, and now they jump up into the top 20 in the points. So, we look towards the end of the regular season for a team to all of a sudden find its stride. Maybe that team out of No Limits Racing. Let's swap over to that final page. Of course, there's those drivers down there that we talked about that right now are in the 3rd and 4th seed as things stand right now, the 95 and the 77. They're just out there trying to get more victories, and I still stress those other teams down here like the 15 and the 74. they get a second win, it will move that cut line for the playoffs. It will move it up a couple of positions, much like we saw happen 2 and 3 weeks ago when the 95 and the 77 went to victory lane respectively. It moved the measuring stick, moved that cutoff line up in the point standings. It could happen again here today. We'll have to wait and see. But now it's time to go down trackside. It's time for pre-race ceremonies. Let's go down to the infield here and kick things off with today's singing of the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Drivers, start your engines!
Dodge Charger pace car is going to lead the 29 car field off of pit road. And these drivers will get ready to take the first green flag in the history of the Duracell Cup Series here at the Nashville Superspeedway. Your starting lineup for today looks like this. Nathan Orman capturing the pole position. He'll be alongside of Charles Belding in row 1. Zach Rogers makes up row 2 with William Micros, a couple of former winners this season. Stephen Pollard III, he'll be rolling off 5th. He'll be alongside of Danny Wells, Daniel Bouchard, and JT Bryant back in row 4 with RJ Bishop and Jessica Shelton bringing up the remainder of the top 10. Stephen Colon and Bruno Harumi, they're back in row 6. Matt McIntyre and Zachary Fitzwater in row 7. Anthony McCurry, he will make up row 8 with Andrea Serra, Tristan Allen, and Vince Almriego. They are back in row 9. Top 20 completed by Jose Mills and Chris Dollerton. Ryan Brommer and Trent Dunham, they're back in row 11. Row 12 with Allison Rain and Diego Yepes. Chris Washer, Sean Arndt, the two-time winner, they make up row 13. Then Bradley Ream, William Brock, and Dave Campus complete the rest of the lineup here today. Green flags in the air. Nathan Orman gets us underway at Nashville SS. Out of turn 4, lap 1 completed. Nathan Orman, the Burger King of Ford Mustang, will lead it. A lot of people may not remember this, but Nathan Orman's first career win in the Duracell Cup Series came on concrete at Dover. As Stephen Pollard III is now moved to second, Bishop into third, Cologne now to fourth. Zach Rogers was making a charge, but he got kicked up to the outside line, way out of the groove, and he's about to maybe fall outside of the top 10, only 2 laps in. 10th place was where he crossed the line right there after rolling off from the inside of row number 2. Concrete surface. In the daytime, means not a whole lot of grip for these drivers. Already starting to see guys as they head into turn 1 bailing out of the throttle, trying to roll through the center. And while it is called a super speedway, it races like a super speedway in no way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, the toughest corner here at this particular track is the turn they went into just there, turn 1. While it may look like you could take that thing full throttle, not a whole lot of banking to be able to lean on. And as I said here today, not a lot of grip to be able to hook up with. And so it's really all about throttle control. 3 and 4 is a little bit easier for these guys. Granted, there's still not a whole lot of banking to lean on, but 1 and 2 is very difficult, especially turn 1. And that could be the deciding corner here today of who's able to rotate turn 1 the best. Also means that these drivers are going to have to be very well versed in tire conservation in a very long 75 lapper. So pit road could very well play a part into the outcome of today's race. As you saw, Nathan Ormond had opened up about 6 car lengths back to Stephen Pollard III. That has since evaporated. Pollard has reeled Ormond in. There you just saw, though, Ormond was able to really hook the bottom. Pollard not so much and had to bail out about center of the corner off. Lost him a lot of momentum off of turn 2. He'll now fall back into the clutches of RJ Bishop and Stephen Colon. Talked about that 47 team coming into this one winless. They are the 3rd highest in the point standings as far as a team is concerned without a victory, and Stephen was close. Stephen was very close back at ISM, but came up runner-up to his teammate Bradley Ream in what was a Lake Effect Autosports 1-2 finish. So he has been chasing that elusive 1 extra position that he came up just short on getting back in the desert. He's currently chasing RJ Bishop in the 2 car. Dylan Young was giving it a bit of a run last week, trying to get the deuce in victory lane. Had a decent run though, so now the 2 car finds itself up inside the top 20 in the points, 19th in the overall standings. And if RJ is able to get a checkered flag here today, that would put that team up in the conversation for maybe one of those final playoff positions. Same can be said for the 99 team, 18th in the point standings coming into this one. They are only 10 points behind that playoff cut line as well, so they're still trying to just chase a checkered flag. Andrea Serra doing the driving duties here today in that Shadow Cult Racing team entry. As behind her, got a good battle raging for the 5th position. Correction, that's actually now for 6th. William Micros and Tristan Allen. Micros putting that 93 in victory lane back at Manassas. Tristan Allen's teammate Cole Baker winning at Texas, I believe it was. Texas or Atlanta. Actually, I think it was Atlanta. So both of these teams are looking for win number 2 on the year. Right now, the 93 team sits 4th in the overall points, so they're sitting in a good spot to make it into the playoffs. The 11 team, though, as we saw pre-race, they're right now sitting 2nd team outside of the cut line. So Tristan Allen looking to give them a little bit of insurance and leapfrog that playoff cut line here today. And there's the car we saw go to victory lane last week, 78 car. Diego Yepes started the winning streak for the 78 team, if you will, back at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Ryan Butcher followed it up with a victory last week at New Hampshire. So now that 78 team is just out there looking for trophies, if you will, and of course as well trying to keep the 19 just ahead of him within striking distance, as they're right there in the forefront, top of the point standings, battling for that overall points lead. Chris Washer right now will be the last driver inside of the top 10 in that 44. There are a couple of teams now that, with it being so far into the season now and only a handful of races left until the playoff grid is put together, that are absolutely going to have to rely on 2 victories to get into the playoffs. That 44 team would be one of them. The 12 team out of Evans Gardner Motorsports. The 17 team out of Joanna Atwood Motorsports. These are teams that right now don't have a win and seem like they are just a little bit too far back. Don't have enough time to be able to close up the gap between themselves and where that playoff cut line currently is. I believe that last week at New Hampshire, by this time, 15 laps in, we were already working our 3rd caution of the day. So far, these drivers have kept it clean and green at the Nashville Superspeedway. And you know, a lot of times we end up coming into a race and I get an opportunity to be able to talk about the former winners here at this racetrack, well, we don't have any of those statistics here this week because it's the first time that Duracell Cup Series drivers have taken to Nashville Superspeedway. This portion of the schedule last year was when we actually were at the Chili Bowl heats, where we had not one, not two, not three, but 4 different winners during the course of those races. If I recall correctly, I'll try and see if I can remember each one of them. I believe that Austin LaPlante was one. Michael Wayne Robinson, I believe, was another. Ryan Butcher and... was it Dylan Poteet? Was Poteet the other one, I believe? I'll be shocked if I got all those right. I believe those were the 4 winners in those respective heats, but then again, my memory is not exactly the best. I'm pretty sure I'm correct in the Michael Wayne Robinson. I'm pretty certain that he definitely was one of the winners. The other 3, I might have actually said them incorrectly, but I'm certain there are people out there that follow the series that have memories like steel traps that are probably saying right now, nope, you're wrong, or maybe they're saying I'm right. Who knows? Top 5 have broken away. There's almost a full second gap from NNSCRA in 5th back to William Micros in 6th. So you've got 4 Fords and 1 Chevrolet up here inside of the top 5. And then it's Ford, Toyota, Chevy, Toyota, Dodge completing the rest of the top 10. It's been a bit of a winless streak, if you will, for the Mustangs, surprisingly enough. Saw them very dominant in the early portion of the season, but their successes seem to taper off just a little bit. You know, there's one thing I was thinking about here as we watch this battle for the lead possibly start to close up 20 laps in. This is where the tires are definitely worn down, and we're going to start to see who has the better long-run car and the better tire conservation. But you can't help but be impressed with the Toyotas this season, and I'll tell you why. Each week, Toyota fields only 4 Camrys in the field. The 77, the 78 out of Auto Junction Racing, the 11 out of TCW Racing, and the 8 out of Haas Racing. And between the 12 drivers that race in those cumulative 4 teams, they have 6 victories here in the first 19 races of the season. That is very impressive. Before the 4 Racing Enterprises Dodge entry came into the field, Toyota was the least fielded manufacturer. And they have definitely held their own, and right now we know that for absolute certain, at least 2 of those Toyotas will be represented in the playoffs. And if the 8 car can keep themselves up there in the top 5, and if the 11 car can hit a streak of good finishes and stay above the cut line, I mean, we could see all 4 of the Toyotas represented in the playoffs here this season. That is an incredible feat. As I was rambling on, we noticed that Pollard got himself a decent run there to the back of Nathan Ormond, but Ormond proving that clean air is key. You notice that when Pollard got to him, he drove it in on the top side, lifted off the throttle, crossed down to the bottom. What he was doing there, that was actually a defensive move, which changed the air on the nose of the SKF Chevrolet, got Pollard tight, that allowed Ormond to be able to pull away and maintain his car length and a half gap, and looked like Pollard might have gotten a little tight there again. So Pollard is mounting charges, but Nathan Ormond, the wily veteran, making sure he keeps the rookie at bay. Well, we know that a couple of teams that are around the cut line are doing somewhat decent here in the early going. The 11 car, one of them, Tristan Allen, who is now under fire from Diego Yepes, that is for 7th. And we'll stack them up for 9th now, with Washer trying to get to the inside of Belding. Yepes will complete the pass. Allen trying to hang on to 8th place now, and looks like he will do so. So the 11 team looks good to maybe move themselves up above the cut line heading into next week, as now Allen under fire from Chris Washer. Here comes Anthony McCrory, the Panda Express Chevrolet there as well. So a good battle from Was this 10th? No, 9th back to 11th. But what about some of those other teams that are down around the cut line? I think I saw the 31 just up there. Oh, no, correction, that was the 95. There's the 31 and the 32. Teammates out of Pigeon Racing. 31 team came into this race 1 point ahead of the cut line. 32 team came in 2 points behind the cut line. And the team that these guys are worrying about is the 48 team. And where is the 48 right now? Whoa, wow, way back here. William Brock, 23rd. As a matter of fact, there's a bunch of cars that are way back here in their own little group. Shelton's back here. Ali Rain, Daniel Bouchard, Bradley Ream, Vince Almriego as well. So I'm not certain why these drivers are as far back as they are. Zachary Fitzwater's back here quite a ways too, but this is not good for the 48 team. Austin LaPlante had a great run last week at New Hampshire, moved them up above the cut line. But now they may end up falling back down below the cut line if William Brock's not able to get something going here. Still a long ways to go in this race though, so plenty of time. 2017 we mentioned has been on a bit of a dip in terms of performance the last couple of weeks. Joshua Osborne with some hard luck last week before, Alex Tanker with some problems, getting involved in a wreck. Well, Matt McIntyre looks to turn that around. 2017 was up inside of the top 6 or 7 in points 2 weeks ago. And now they come into this race 12th in the point standings. More importantly, they're only about 10, 11 points, I think, ahead of the cut line. So they don't want it to be that close. That's a little bit of a nail-biter there for these guys. There's a big group now clustered up in this vicinity. Ryan Brommer in the 31. Danny Wells now diving to the inside in the 15. Danny Wells, of course, trying to build off of Tim Walsh's victory at Dover. If the 15 goes to victory lane for a second time, that moves the playoff cut line down a little bit more. Of course, as well, Walsh winning at Dover. That was a concrete racetrack, so gotta wonder if that played any part into the type of setup they had for the race car here today, the Legend Racing entry. He's got Trent Dunham in the 1 right behind him there as well. Can only imagine what would have happened if Tim Walsh was driving the 15 with Trent Dunham behind him. For those that are well-versed on way back Enter 2003 lore, they will remember the rivalry between those two. As we've had a lead change. I don't know when it happened. You guys obviously would have seen it on the top left, and we will show it to you now on the NNSCRA split cam, but Stephen Pollard III has gotten around Nathan Ormond, and now will be leading them down pit road. They have to use the access lane heading into turn 3. Back that thing down to 55 miles per hour. No, 45 miles per hour. It's a good thing I wasn't out there on the racetrack. I would have been speeding. Chris Washer is going to lead the lap as he and about a dozen drivers stayed out an extra lap. So Ormond led the first 25 laps. Pollard led the next 6. Washer leads a lap there, and now he and more than likely the rest of the field will come down pit lane this time. Interesting, the timing of these pit stops. Lap 33, if this is the furthest they can go, they've got one more pit stop en route if we continue from this point on under green flag conditions. Furthest they'd be able to make it somewhere in the vicinity of lap 67 to 68, putting them anywhere from 7 to 9 laps short of the finish. So who cycles as the race leader? Who had the execution on pit road? Oh, Ryan Brommer stayed out an extra lap. Got himself a lap led. That could be important, especially with that 31 team down there near the playoff cut line, but it would look like Andrea Serra might end up coming away with this race lead now. 99 team was better than the 09 team on pit road. '99 car for most of its career in the Duracell Cup Series ran under the Blue Oval Automotive banner. For a time also was teamed up with former champion Chris Dollarton in the Rockin' Ranch Racing Express team. But now branching off into its own single car team. Levi McIntyre, of course, the team owner, primary driver. Still waiting for the ticker to update itself here, as it's got Ryan Brommer still leading, but I believe next time by it will show NNSCRA as the race leader. Ryan Brommer actually led not one lap but two. He crossed the start-finish line on pit lane to lead the second lap, which is why it's going to take this full lap here to now put the 99 up at the top of the leaderboard. So NNSCRA, halfway through this race, is our new race leader here at Nashville Superspeedway. Stephen Colon just made his way around Chris Washer to move to second. Washer back to third. He's under fire from Stephen Pollard the third, so Washer with a great pit strategy there, gaining him track position. Fifth place now is where we'll find Diego Yepes. Tristan Allen runs in seventh. Eighth place, Charles Belding. Jose Mills is now up to ninth. Now, somewhere I missed the correct running order. It's Allen 6th, Belding 7th, and Mills in 8th, so apologies there. And then 9th place is our pole sitter, Nathan Ormond, who just ran his fastest lap of the race, by the way, right then and there on fresh tires. Trent Dunham currently holds down the final spot inside of the top 10. 11th place is going to be RJ Bishop. 12th, Anthony McCrory. 13th, Bruna Harumi. 14th place is William Micros, and Ryan Brommer right now completes the top 15. Give you the rest of you a full field rundown here. 16th, Chris Dollarton. Dave Campos, who started shotgun in the field, now up to 17th. Sean Arndt, the two-time winner, is in 18th. Danny Wells, 19th. JT Bryant just lost the 20th position to Matt McIntyre, so dropped Bryant back to 21st. Zach Rogers in 22nd. Daniel Bouchard, 23rd. Battle for the lead is on, and almost some contact there as 24th, Zachary Fitzwater. Vince Albriego in 25th. 26th, William Brock. 27th, Bradley Ream. Jessica Shelton in 28th, and 29th is Allison Rain. All 29 drivers still on the lead lap after we complete our first cycle of green flag pit stops. We've had another cycle for the race lead. Stephen Colon out in front in the Walmart Ford Mustang out of Lake Effect Autosports. Pollard moves into second, Washer into third, and just like that in the blink of an eye, NNSCRA goes from leading this race back to the fourth position. 40 laps under our belts, and we've already, here today, granted with the aid of that cycle green flag pit stop, so we've already had 6 different leaders. Nathan Norman led the first 25 laps, Stephen Pollard the third, then took over for 6 laps. 4 laps led for NNSCRA, 2 laps led for Ryan Brommer, and 1 lap led apiece for Chris Washer and Stephen Colon until just moments ago. Colon led his second lap and will continue to try and add to that total out in clean air. So that would mean that so far here today, all but Toyota has led a lap. And Toyota, of course, riding a bit of a streak coming into this race, back-to-back victories. With Roberto Crowden Jr. at Chicago, and last week, Ryan Butcher. So we're going to see when these drivers elect to make that final pit stop. 33 to 34 laps was about the first they went. I think Ryan Brommer went 35 laps. So theoretically, these drivers could pit now and be able to make it the rest of the way. Theoretically. Now, we do have to bear in mind, too, that on that first run, a lot of drivers are in their own little packs. Some of them would have had the aid of draft, and that could have extended how far they were able to go and what they had in the tank. Now the field is much more spread out. And so that's going to play a difference in fuel consumption. But I think even now, coming around close to 30 laps to go, I think they'd be able to make it on fuel. But I don't think anybody's going to come down pit road unless they absolutely have to. They're going to run the tank as dry as they possibly can. come down and take on as less fuel as possible. The big question is, though, do you gamble on tires? You're more than likely going to be running a full cycle on these Goodyears. The amount of time you spend on pit road, you probably would only have to take half a can, maybe only 1 can of fuel. So would you run the risk of just going with right sides only? Try and see if you can gain some track position and hold on for the final 8 to 10 laps? Certain that that's what's going on. Conversation between crew chiefs and drivers right now. As Charles Belding beginning to free fall a bit. He was up in the 6th position, now back to 8th and under fire for that spot from Tristan Allen. Jose Mills right there as well. Belding beginning to free fall, and that's got to put a smile on the faces of the 78 team and Diego Yepes, as every position they lose is another point the 78 team gains in the overall point standings. Trent Dunham now trying to get that final spot inside of the top 10 from the Krispy Kreme Chevrolet, and he will succeed in doing so. Well, give you guys an idea of just what it takes to approach a racetrack like Nashville Superspeedway. Next time around, we're going to take a lap around, courtesy of the Walmart Ford Mustang, out there in clean air, Stephen Colon, and give you guys an idea of just how much finesse goes into making your way around a track as slick and unpredictable as Nashville Superspeedway. Take a listen. Couple of things observed right there. You heard the bailing out of the throttle through the center of the corner over in 3 and 4. I don't know if that's just due to the track conditions or due to the setup, but you would certainly think that a car out in clean air would be lifting on entry and then able to flat-foot it all the way through the center of the corner into turn 4, but that's not the case, so we'll keep an eye on that. We know that Pollard is very patient. He waited 25 laps before he put the pressure on Nathan Norman to take the race lead away from him. And Pollard is right there, once again within striking distance, about 2.5 car lengths off the back bumper of that 47. So he might be waiting to do the exact same thing again. Gonna drop further back, see if there's any battles going on, and it's really all outside of the top 10. This is for around the 11th, 12th position. Anthony McCurry just took 11th from Ryan Brommer. Dave Campos trying to now get around the 31. Jose Mills and Charles Belding, they're both going the wrong direction now. How about Dave Campos there in that 8 car? We've already seen here today how important it is to be out in clean air. He started deep in traffic, dead last in the field. Did a great job on pit road, did his crew to gain him a couple of spots, and 53 laps into the 75-lap event, he has picked up 26 spots. That's very impressive. I'm sorry, correction, 16 spots, I should say. Still an impressive job there by Dave Campos, as, oh, he's going to have his rear deck lid full. Might have been some contact there. I think Jose Mills might have pushed him up the racetrack just the least little bit. And what's going to be an ongoing battle for the 13th position. Charles Belding going to get in this mix now as well. And Campos with that wide entry into turn 1, going to give up the spot to Mills. Belding looks to capitalize also. Well, you lose that momentum, you pay the price. We've seen that at so many tracks here this season. We're just that little blip of the throttle, and next thing you know, running 10th, you're back to 15th. Drivers are more than willing to take advantage of your misfortunes. Speaking of misfortunes, Nathan Ormond, after he lost the race lead, that car has just seemed to not be quite the same. Dropped back, I think, as far as 4th during that, just before the pit stop cycle began. He's been up here inside of the top 10 all day, but he has lost touch with the front 4. The gap right now between himself and 4th place running NNSCRA is about 3 seconds, so unless we have a caution or something drastic happens here in terms of pit strategy, it's looking like it could be just a 4-horse race up here at the front. And, oh, by the way, all 4 of these drivers are rookies, so subsequently they are all looking for their first career wins in Duracell Cup Series competition. Stephen Colon, Stephen Pollard III, Chris Washer, and NNSCRA. And all 4 of these drivers are looking to get the first win of the season for their respective teams. If the 47 car goes to victory lane today, they could, it's not definite, but they could at that point lock themselves up a playoff position. If the 99 car goes to victory lane, that puts them up possibly above the cutoff line, so subsequently into a playoff position. But the big question mark is the 09 and the 44. Well, there's really no question mark about the 44. If Chris Washer wins here today, then either he, Reggie Fogelman, or Daniel Silla in the final 5 races of the season have to go to victory lane again. They need 2 wins to be able to get into the playoffs. But that 09 team, I mean, they came into this race 22nd in points. If I can quickly do the math in my head, they are 31 points behind the cut line. I don't know. I don't know if they would necessarily need 2 wins. I think they could mathematically get a victory and make their way up there into a playoff position points-wise, but they certainly would need the momentum to be on their side. And we saw, what was it, last week? Kyle Matthews, his car was all beat up, and he somehow finished that car up inside of the top 15 on the lead lap, too, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, they haven't exactly had a lot of luck come their way the last couple of weeks, but they've made do with what they had. Now, I am hearing some idling engines up ahead, but I do not believe, at least at this point in time, that the tail end of the field, slower traffic is going to play into the outcome of this race. Because, of course, we have at least one more pit stop these drivers are going to have to make, and right now, last car in the field, Jessica Shelton, running about 16 seconds behind race leader Stephen Colon. It takes them a little more than 28 seconds to make their way around, so we're talking about, give or take, 12 to 13 seconds difference between the back bumper of Jessica Shelton and the front bumper of Stephen Colon. I just don't see that gap closing up here in the final 15 laps of this race. So we are within, I would say, 5 laps away from when these drivers are going to have to make the money stop again. We saw NNSCRA, that team was the team that rose to the occasion, got her out in front when the pit stop cycle is completed. Can they do it again? When do we see pit road start to get busy here? Does anybody dive onto pit road now? Or do they wait? Another reason why I think drivers might be wanting to wait until the last possible minute is that way you don't have as many laps on your tires. Impressively enough, though, the tire fall-off hasn't been as bad as one would have expected. I mean, if we use Stephen Colon, our race leader, as a measuring stick, his best lap was a 28.224. Last time by, he ran a 28.6.5. So that's only really about 0.4 of a second fall off between the last lap he ran, which would have been on roughly 30-lap old tires, and the fastest lap that he has set down in this race. That's not a lot of fall off, really. Certainly not as much fall off as I expected, put it that way. Battle might be for second. Stephen Pollard III and Chris Washer. Well, you saw Washer had to lift there through the center of the corner. Pollard back to the throttle, opens the gap back up as he'll try and close in on Stephen Colon. It might be the Stephen versus Stephen show. Both of them with the same first name, although spelled differently. Pollard has the PH, and Colon has the V. Also got a group back here that might be slowly starting to reel in that top 4. Ormond, Bishop, and Yepes. It was about 3 seconds between them and the top 4, and that has since closed up. Now it might close up even more as pit road is about to become a busy place. Chris Washer stays out. Cologne, Pollard, and NNSCRA, they are down pit road this time. Nathan Ormond, RJ Bishop, and Diego Ipiez using that access road to close up some time also. Heads up move there. They got to make sure they don't speed when they get to the commitment line, but make up as much ground as you possibly can because pit road doesn't start until you get to pit road. You can take as much speed on this access road as you want to. Chris Washer carrying about 115 miles per hour top there on the access road before bringing it down to pit road speed. Mike Gross, Mills, and Campos coming down. Brommer will stay out an extra lap. Somebody else stayed out an extra lap there as well. Was that Dollarton? It was. So a couple of the Pigeon Racing Chevrolets stretching it just a little bit further. There's Dollarton. And there is Cologne coming out ahead of SP3. So Cologne may have gotten his team to get him back out there with the top position with less than 10 laps to go. Brommer going to come down to the attention of his crew for the final time today. Dollarton right behind. Several drivers who were on pit road last lap just now leaving. There's Washer. Looks like he's going to come out at least in the 4th position. As Stephen Cologne might take 2 laps for it to update. Should be back to the top of the leaderboard. With Stephen Pollard in 2nd. NNSCRA would be in 3rd. And then 4th place battle might be heating up. Washer, RJ Bishop, and Diego Yepes. Now Yepes to the inside of Bishop. Might go for a twofer. Gonna have to settle for just 1 position there. As Ryan Brommer, that pit strategy might help him get a top 10. I don't know if he's gonna get ahead of Yepes and Bishop, but it should cycle him to around 9th. No, he's gonna merge with this group. Might slow him up a little bit as we're gonna be 3 wide going into turn 1. Oh, these guys have been so good today of not bringing out the caution, and that almost looked like our first yellow could emerge in the final few laps of this race, but they keep it together. They leaned on each other, but they kept it pointing the right way. Well, now it's down to who's got the best car here on the home stretch. Cologne takes the race lead back. 6 laps to go. Pollard behind him ran about a 10th quicker, 8/100ths to be exact, than Stephen Cologne. He's got half a second to close up on the 47. Both these drivers looking for their first career victories. Both these drivers trying to get their respective teams a potential spot in this season's playoffs. NNSCRA looks like she'll be getting her best career finish as she rides in 3rd. Big gap from her to this battle for the win. Big gap from her back to 4th. So I think she's just kind of on her own little island riding this thing out to a podium. That last time by, it was 6/100ths of a second that Pollard closed up the gap. He's going to get the draft down these straightaways, which should help him to close in on Cologne. But once he gets there, then what? We've seen when he gets to the back of a car, it gets tight. So catching him's one thing, passing him is another. Let's see this time. What's the gap close up by? Only 4/100ths, and it's 4 laps to go. He needs a lot more than that, does Pollard. Needs a lot more than that. There's the tail end of the field. Zach Rogers, my goodness, what's happened to that 6 car? He's back here with Ream and Rain and Fitzwater, Bishop, Almriego. Those drivers not going to be getting the performances they were looking for here today. As it's now 3 to go, the gap closed up a lot more that time. Another 8/100ths for Pollard. He's about 3.5 car lengths back now. He's got to close that up by at least half, I think, this time by. He's got to be at least 2 car lengths back from Cologne if he's going to have a shot in the final lap. Well, you heard Cologne back way out of the throttle there on entry to try and get back into it through the center of the corner. Pollard may be running out of time here. 2 to go. Stephen Cologne, all the way back at ISM, was so close to being able to pick up his first career victory. He had the choice. He could bump his teammate Bradley Ream out of the way and go for it himself, or he could tuck in line and pick up what was then his best career finish of 2nd. Well, that patience is going to be rewarded here today. I do believe, as the white flag is going to be displayed this time. Stephen Cologne's teammates must be somewhere in the infield. Jesse Turner has got to be going crazy, realizing the possibility that a victory here today could put him back in the playoffs for what would be the second season in a row in his career. It's the rookie driver, Stephen Cologne, that's going to give him that shot. Out of turn 4 for the final time. Stephen Cologne, first career win here today at Nashville Superspeedway. Eighth in the point standings coming into this race. Third highest team without a victory, and now today, quite possibly the latest addition into the playoffs for the Duracell Cup Series Championship. And what a tough break. You saw right there, Andrea Serra on pit road. She just came around to the start-finish line. They did not get the car full of fuel. What was going to be a third-place finish, Serra will finish dead last here today since everybody else was running and on the lead lap. That is a heartbreak for the 99 team. It was the Steven and Steven show at the end, but it's Cologne over Pollard to pick up his first career victory. And Ford finally goes back to victory lane after quite a long spell of not capturing a checkered flag. Standings are official. Diego Yepes is going to complete the podium, so that 78 team, that hot streak will continue, and they will begin to open up the points gap here down the home stretch for that overall points lead. RJ Bishop, great run today in 4th. Ryan Brommer there in 5th. Trying to keep that 31 car above the cut line. Nathan Ormond will bring it home in 6th. Great run for the pole sitter. Trent Dunham 8th. Chris Washer 9th. Dave Campus from last to 9th. 20 positions he picked up during the course of this race. Great drive for him. He'll get a top 10 along with Tristan Allen, who's going to finish in the 10th position. Tristan Allen then will be followed by Jose Mills, William Micros, Matt McIntyre, Charles Belding, and Bruno Harumi for the top 15. Then Danny Wells, Sean Art, Chris Dalton, Anthony McCurry, and Jessica Shelton. That is your top 20. A lot of drivers there on that final pit stop really fell back and subsequently are going to be finishing outside of the top 20. Brock Bouchard, Almriego, Zach Rogers, all the way back in 24th. Bradley Ream, Allison Range, JT Bryant, Zachary Fitzwater, and there you see the 99 of Andrea Serra, who apparently didn't even get back to the start-finish line before the results were official, so it has her scored a lap down, but we're going to score her for all rights and purposes on the lead lap. Doesn't matter, she's going to finish in 29th position regardless of whether she's on the lead lap or not. So we said that last week with the 78 car going to victory lane, it did not really move the playoff cut line, but with the 47 car getting its first win on the season, it does move the playoff cut line. So that's going to put even more pressure on teams like the 27 team, the 48, the 31, 32, the 11, and where they would be situated either above or below the cut line heading into next week's race. I'll tell you what, that is going to be a storyline we will follow week after week until we eventually get to the end of the regular season, because I don't think that cut line is going to stay stationary. I think it's going to continue to move up, continue to move down as drivers and teams continue to get their first, second, or in a couple of cases, maybe even their third wins on the season. So it's going to be a very interesting storyline to follow for sure. But I'd say a very good debut here today for Nashville Superspeedway on the Duracell Cup Series schedule. I think more than likely we can expect to see this back at some point on the Season 6 schedule. And it sets us up with a very interesting scenario heading down the home stretch, which will continue next week when these drivers will be at the Kentucky Speedway. Bluegrass State going to play its part into this season's playoffs, and hope you guys will join us for that. But once again, congratulations to Stephen Cologne as he picks up his first win of the season, first win of his career, first win of the season for the 47 team, and now gives Lake Effect Autosports at least one victory with its two respective entries, piggybacking off of Bradley Ream's victory at ISM. Hope you guys enjoyed today's race. If you did, be sure to give a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. We've shown you full finish results. You'll see what your point standings look like during the pre-race next week at Kentucky Speedway. And until then, I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of NNSCRA, off flying racing at its best.